Kris, how are you?
Hello, mate. This has gone a massive upgrade, hasn't it? How are you to me?
No, listen, mate, it's just nice to have you on because obviously, like, you got me and Clarky on down at the pub. God, must be about 12 months ago now since we travelled down to the Ashley, and
It might be a little bit longer, mate, to be honest with you.
Aye. And it was good crack. And then obviously I've been watching your stuff as most people do, most Newcastle fans do, and then Red Rose Michelle, obviously, you were kind enough to lend us for a show last week, which was great. So I just thought I'd return the favour and get Gallagher Shots on, the man behind Gallagher Shots. And great to have you on. With regards to Gallagher Shots, how did it start out? What was the idea behind it? Who were the geniuses behind it, and why did you do it?
So Gallagher Shots started a fair few years back now. It was the season under... So Porgy was manager at the time. It started in an upstairs flat in South Shields. It was just me on my phone, and I've always had a bit of a passion for the likes of graphic design and those sort of things, mate. So I thought I'll give it a try using apps on my phone.
Yeah.
So Gallagher Shot started as basically rubbish designs by me for likes of players. Used to Photoshop players, different backgrounds, like you see now on the likes of Twitter and Facebook. Then it just went from there, mate. It became really popular, and I always aimed for... I hit milestones like 1,000 followers on Twitter, and there was always accounts around about 10,000. I thought that's where I want to get to, around about that stage. Then over the last few years, mate, obviously we've introduced the podcast, all the social medias, the YouTube channel, which is pretty new. It's only been around for about 2 years now. It's only the last season we've really gone full force on that one. And now it's great to be a part of it. So it was started by me, but we have 10 people now working for Gallagher Shots, and like I said, it's going from strength to strength.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think the good thing about it is, and I think moving forward, this will be the medium that a lot of supporters will rely on. I think a bit like, the club were naive and stupid to let NUFC.com go as a domain, and obviously Niall and Biffa were quick to act on that and set that up. That's become the go-to website, not nufc.co.uk. That might change with new owners, of course. We might find that more people rely on the club website if it was updated with anything worth looking at. But I think, fans' mediums will always be the same. And it's really just taken over from fanzines, hasn't it? Because, I was part of the fanzine revolution with, the mag and, obviously my magazine, The Mighty Quinn. There was Half Mag, Half Biscuit, Jim's Bald Heed. So many great titles which didn't last a great deal of time. The mags lasted the test of time, of course, and gone onto the net. But I think visual stuff like you do and podcasts and and etc. They've become the go-to, haven't they, for people? And there's different ones for different types of people as well.
Like you said, mate, it's basically advanced from the likes of fanzines. Obviously, you're looking back at fanzines, of course, going to print was fantastic back in the day, but now people want instant news. So the likes of YouTube and podcasts, it's fantastic for people to go and get those news. And then coming from fans, I think a lot of people appreciate that, because unlike journalists, we don't have to sit on the fence as fans. We can basically get in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, and say what we want. Of course, it can come back and bite one or sometimes, but it happens with anything Newcastle related. But like you said, there's so many different ones around. Like Newcastle alone is probably 4 or 5 YouTube channels. Then you've got the podcast on top of that. People that haven't even started the YouTube channels yet, and every single one of them offers something completely different to the next one. Our approach is basically I always remember a few years back when the podcast started getting pretty popular. Someone done a review on all the Newcastle podcasts, and they went through them all. They got ours, which was just basically the Gallagher Shots podcast at the time before it got rebranded. And they said, if you want to listen to a podcast, which is more like going to the pub after full time and having a chat with your mates, then listen to this podcast. And that's all we're aiming for, mate. We don't take ourselves too seriously. It was just having a pint and just having a chat with your mates.
Yeah, I think that's the key, really, just being natural. You know what I mean? There's no no trying too hard. It is just, that's what it's like. I mean, that's why I do enjoy listening to yours. I mean, I don't listen to them, to all the podcasts. I've got to be honest, and I'm talking about all the different ones. but that's because it's down to personal choice. You know, you go with what you enjoy, and that's the same with whether it's a crime podcast or a football podcast or whatever. You'll find one which you actually enjoy, and then you subscribe to it and you listen to it. And that's, you know, Gallagher Shots has been one for me. I've dabbled. I did probably one of the very first ones years ago, Toon Talk, NUFC Toon Talk, and I then handed the reins over to Andrew Davis, and he took it on, and I did enjoy doing it. But I think probably the question I'm going to ask you next is, do you find it easier when Newcastle are struggling, or do you obviously have you found it easier? I mean, you started when Pardew was in charge. I think that's probably the last time we did anything half decent under Pardew, finishing in a European slot. But do you find it easier to do talks and have content when Newcastle are struggling?
To be honest with you, mate, if you're looking at a match reaction, if Newcastle go and win the game, it's really easy to talk about it, and it goes really quickly. If we're only recording for an hour, but you'd be surprised if you've got something to be angry about and something to talk about and like show your frustrations about. If Newcastle get an absolute hiding, you'd be surprised by the likes of download numbers and things like that. If Newcastle win, you're looking at a steady number. If we lose, that number rockets, because I think it's that sort of reaction. And we saw with Bry the True Geordie, if there's something to shout about, people will tune in. So it's a strange one. People would just assume win games, you'd get more numbers, but it's the other way around, really.
No, of course it is. Yeah, I mean, I think with fanzines, I think it was always easier to write about, you know, Newcastle not doing well, and easy to take the mick out of players and stuff, and have a pop. You know what I mean? So it is a bit different, I suppose. I mean, you know, I want to be covering Newcastle winning something. You know, you want to be covering, you know, a trip to Wembley every season, and you know, Champions League and stuff like that, because it would take us to a new level. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's one of those things. I think it's just you know, different content, depends what kind of show you've got. You know, before we get on to Newcastle United and what's going on in the world of Newcastle United, where can people, you know, find Gallowgate Shots, etc.? Give everything a shout out now, and then we'll do it at the end of the podcast as well.
So Gallagher Shots is predominantly on Twitter at the moment. So the likes of the Twitter account links every other account. So you just search for Gallagher Shots on Twitter. Facebook, exactly the same tagline. On Instagram, you'll see it here. Someone got in before when they realised Gallagher Shots was getting popular and stole the tag for that one. So you've got to put an underscore in it. But what we're really trying to push at the minute is the likes of the YouTube channel. So once again, go on YouTube, search for Gallagher Shots. It'll be the first one. And get those numbers up forward. Subscribers are going up at the minute. That they've been helped massively with Shell jumping on board the last few weeks. I'll tell you that.
I bet.
But yeah, it has. It's gone through the roof. But we are aiming to be that YouTube channel that people go to. That's what overall aim.
Mm-hmm. And to be, before anyone starts jumping in and going, Steve Wraith and Kris Wallace are both sexist pigs. We both mean, yes, obviously Red Rose Michelle is very nice on the eye, but she's absolutely superb at what she does, and she's been somebody who I've actually pushed people towards when it's come to anything business related, company's house related, and of course, you know, that's been beneficial, because I think, let's talk Takeover. It has been an absolute nightmare this last nine or 10 weeks, hasn't it? Especially with us being in lockdown for 11 weeks. Nine of those weeks we've been absolutely, you know, battered, I suppose is the right word to describe it. You will have been the same as me, same as George Culkin. You know, the list is endless with questions, requests, and wanting to know what the situation is with regards to the takeover.
It's been a vicious circle since day one, hasn't it?
Yes.
So as each week comes, you get a new letter, you get a new sense of hope, you get everything during that week. But have really had any new news since week 3, week 4. It just seems, like I said, it's just a roundabout revolving door on that one. And to be honest with you, confidence-wise, this is the most confident I've ever been with any of the takeovers, because we're now physically at the point where we know, even though the Premier League haven't said it's officially with them, we know it's there. And as long as we're not receiving any news, which is basically saying that it's been declined or rejected the takeover, that's good news as far as I'm concerned. So I think I'm one of the ones that's glass half full, where I'm like I said, I'm really optimistic on this one. I'm 99% positive that this will go through. I think the likes of the piracy concerns, of course, that the huge could be a speed bump, but I think the Premier League will probably welcome the likes of the Saudi money coming into the Premier League, because if they don't get a Premier League club, they're just going to go abroad and buy one of the top clubs abroad. So fingers crossed that the Premier League will welcome it. But like you said, it's been really frustrating. Lockdown hasn't helped. People have been working from home or furloughed, so they're sat with nothing to do, basically. So all that you find yourself doing on this one is sitting with your phone in your hand, just scrolling through social media, and it's mind-numbing at times. It really is. I try my hardest to stay off social media too much, because it can really affect you mentally. But obviously, with having the whole Gallagher Shots thing, we've had to try and push things. But like you said earlier, with Shell being on board and our partner Reese as well, they've been a common factor for a lot of people. When you get the likes of the clickbait media saying things that aren't going to happen, and there's a huge story and how the takeover is in jeopardy, they're straight in there trying to dig to the bottom of it, and it's not guesswork from their point of view. That they're using their knowledge in their jobs and roles to basically translate it across to what's happening now. So yeah, it's like I said, it's really, really frustrating. Sorry, but what else can we do? We've just got to sit here and be patient. Yeah,
I think the point I've just tried to push across is that nobody actually knows what is going on. With the exception of Masters at the Premier League, Mike Ashley and Amanda Staveley to a lesser degree, because it's now in the hands of the Premier League. Nobody really knows, and anything that any journalist puts out there is always going to be pure speculation. They may have a good source, they may be putting something out there with good intentions, but ultimately newspapers have journalists who are they're fighting for their jobs in a lot of ways, because those that haven't been furloughed, they have to continue to create revenue for the newspapers, and the only way that they can do that is by getting people to click onto their stories.
It's huge demand, mate. I've sat with a few lads that work for local press not so long ago, and they were telling you what they have to publish, and they're under tough guidelines in how many numbers and how much traffic they've got to drive towards those websites. Then you've got to remember, at the end of the day, we judge a lot of these articles on the headlines alone. We don't even click on the article, and we just assume it's clickbait. But the article could be a very interesting article, but the headline will put you off immediately. And the likes of the journalists that are doing those articles, it's not their decision to put those massive headlines on there just to force you onto the website. Or it's scaremongering tactics quite a bit, isn't it? But I respect the journalists, to be honest with you. They're in a no-win situation a lot of the time, at least from my side and my point of view. We can happily sit here and do things like this, and it's not really going to come back to it, because it's not our profession. It's one of those things. So they've got a really tough job, mate, and I don't envy them whatsoever.
No, I completely agree. I always end up sticking up for Lee Ryder a lot, because I know he gets a fair bit of stick. But Lee's job, and I mean, it's a job he gets paid for, but he covers Newcastle United. But, if you take off his 4 weeks entitled holiday, then, he has over 300 days of the year. Lee has to come up with at least 3 pages of Newcastle United news each day. And when you have a club as non-communicative as Newcastle United have been under Ashley, that's a bloody hard thing to do. And a lot of people criticise him because he regurgitates stuff, or there's a new thing in, or something's in the paper on Wednesday that was in on Monday. But it's unfortunate that's the playing field that he's been on. Gone are the days of Alan Oliver and John Gibson when they had Freddie Shepherd giving them stories hook, line, and sinker. Not had that under Ashley, have the Chronicle.
Nowhere near, mate. Not once. Ashley's always put the club away from himself, really, and hasn't opened up to the likes of the journalists. And did he not ban the Chronicle at one point as well?
Yeah.
Did he not introduce some sort of contract where it was only the Daily Mirror or something like that were gain access to the club? It just shows you how much he doesn't care about getting the likes of the club's message across to the fans, the local press. Because let's be honest with you, we go to the local press for our information, and if the club aren't willing to give it, then where does that leave the press? There's absolutely nowhere up shit creek, mate, to be honest.
Has it surprised you how the negativity that's come from, I hesitate to say southern-based press, but let's just say press who don't live in the area, Has it surprised you? And I mean, obviously, we know people like Richard Keys has got his own agenda because he's working at BN. But you know, Miguel Delaney has come to the forefront over the last 9 weeks. You know, from the Independent. Obviously, I had a bit of a tete-a-tete with him on Twitter over the reporting of the Saudi issue, etc. But you know, has it surprised you how many have been so negative and against the takeover?
Not at all. Not at all, mate. Look at the press. If you completely forget about the takeover, the press that we get as a fan base, it's as a club, it's always the same, mate. People always have a negative opinion on Newcastle, and I don't know why. Just look at what we get given all the time, where Newcastle expect loads, expect Champions League football and stuff like that. And when was the last time we physically expected Champions League football, mate? The season we did get into Europe was because Danny Simpson was clearing balls off the line every single week. It was one of those seasons where it was an absolute phenomenon compared to what we used to. So I'm not shocked whatsoever. And even if this takeover does go through, it's not going to stop. We're going to be getting this sort of press and articles week in, week out. It's something that we're going to have to get used to, just like Manchester City fans did as well. We had a Man City fan on the podcast called Howard. He ran a Man City podcast himself. And to be honest with you, he spoke really well. He said that he would love for this takeover to go through because as a fan base, Newcastle will start to understand what they went through. Yeah. And it's more competition for the likes of Man City, Liverpool. It'll drive their clubs to be even better than what they are right now. So I think with it being Southern press, I think we do get a lot from Southern press, but I think it's worldwide now, mate. You're going to get it left, right and centre from all angles.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree. We'll take a few questions. Anyone's got any questions for me or Chris, fire away. We're on 8:30. Neely says, considering the games we have left, how many points do you think we'll accumulate and where do you think we will finish, Chris?
Well, when we done the podcast the other week, we had a few drinks on this one and we got asked one of those questions and I put them to Decker. And Decker was basically giving W's left, right and centre. Saying we're going to win this one, win that one. I think we'll only had ourselves losing 2 games out of the last 9 that are left. So I think we'll be fine, if I'm being honest with you. There's a lot of games. The first 2 are winnable games that you look at. And I think we'll probably only need 1 to be safe on the back of this. But we'll be fine. What worries us is adjusting to what's happened. And players, they're not going to be match fit. But it's the same for every single club. We'll have to remember that. So we'll be fine. I'm not worried. If we do get relegated on the back of a takeover, Jesus. Has that ever happened before?
I mean, it would be unbelievable. It would be typical Newcastle.
I would.
I can't see us going down. I mean, you know, I'm looking forward to getting back to talking to the ex-players next week about football. You know, we'll be building up the football and hopefully moving away from the takeover, putting it on the back burner and just starting to talk about it. And when the games kick off again on the 21st for us, it'll be just nice to, you know, be talking about games gone by, etc. I am looking forward to that, you know. But you know, let's see how the next few weeks pan out with the takeover. Batman's Milkman says, do you find that you get grief from the fans who take your views and opinions as gospel over what they are when they're just after your opinions? I mean, do you get much grief? I've covered this in my book, Every Boy's Dream, about trolls, and I've gone into it in depth about what it's like to be, you know, putting your head above the parapet, having an opinion, speaking about Newcastle United, doing things that, you know, protests and being involved in that kind of stuff. I've spoken about it. How have you found that side of it?
Yeah, you have to expect it, mate. If I'm being honest with you, if you're sitting in front of a camera like we are right now, people are going to disagree with you. And I've got no problem if people disagree with me. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Even on our channel and what we do, the lads never, ever agree with each other. There's always arguments left, right and centre. And that's just in front of camera on microphones, mate. You should see it in the likes of the WhatsApp group. Constantly, I should have thrown it out. But if I'm being honest, of course you get people that give you criticism and basically abuse you, mate. It's been tough at times. What I struggle with is the likes of fans thinking that we are trying to be a voice of a fan base, and that's not the case. We're not out there on a pedestal saying our opinion's right and yours is wrong. Everyone should listen to what we're saying. It's not the case. We're a handful of people just sitting there like you do and just having debates between each other. I mean, that's all that it is. And if people enjoy that, then great. It's great for us, especially. But if people disagree with it, jump on board, have your opinion. Tell us that you don't agree with us. But to sit there and basically ridicule people and trying to put them down, it's something which I'm quite passionate about, mate. If you look at my personal profile on Twitter, I've gone into it quite a bit on it, and we've even done podcasts on the likes of men's mental health and things like that, and it does affect you. That's why you try not to spend too much time on there, because of course you'll sit and go through your notifications. You could have 50 notifications in the last hour which are all positive. Then you could get one or two bad ones in the same time, and your mind focuses on those bad ones, and it's a shame, mate, but it's something which I've learned to live with, something which I expected from day one. So unfortunately, you have those people out there. You're never going to get rid of them, but you just got to put them to one side and focus on the likes of the people that are giving you positive feedback.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've said that, and I back you all the way with that, because it is very difficult, and like you say, you do go through your timeline, and if you see one negative comment, that's the one that you can take away. But yeah, you do learn to cope with it, and it's been good to see a few ex-players in the last couple of weeks. I'm thinking of Steve Howie and Olivia Bernard in particular coming out and also speaking about mental health.
Yeah, mate. The more the merrier, especially people, the likes of the ex-players, that people, they were people's idols, mate. Still are these days. It's great to get more people talking about it. We have had the honour of being invited to St James's Park from the Newcastle Foundation there, just to promote their Be a Game Changer campaign. And it's massive, mate. The amount of effort they put in to put on their sessions, the weekly sessions before everything went into lockdown, where men could go, and it wasn't necessarily just to talk about your struggles. It was just to go and speak to people, mate. That's all that it was. You didn't even have to open up, and so be it. But it's huge. So the more people we can get talking about it, then the better. You look around St James's Park, and the club have made a big effort to push the likes of men's mental health and their campaign. You'll see the Be a Game Changer boards going around, the electronic boards. So it's great. Like I said, mate, us as what we do in the social media following which we have, it's only going to benefit. And like me opening up, it's had people message me privately on my private account just saying thank you, do you know where I can go and seek help here, blah blah blah. And that's I'm happy to do that, mate. If people want to send a message and drop us a DM, I'm always happy to listen, point people in the right direction. It helped me massively, talking out and speaking out to people. Sometimes it sounds ridiculous, but if you speak to family, it's quite hard, because you're holding everything in, and you don't want it to come across as weak sort of thing, even though it's never a weakness. So sometimes speaking to a stranger or someone that's been in a similar situation to yourself, it can do you a world of good, and that's how I found it. So I recommend anyone that is struggling right now, especially with what we're going through at the minute in the world, speak out. That there's hundreds, thousands of people that are willing to help you.
Yeah, 100%. Great stuff. Danielle says, Decker has amazing meltdowns. It's hilarious viewing. She loves the podcasts. Mark Taylor says, I'm 100% this will go through, talking about the takeover. He's keeping positive. Tom Dixon says, who would you like as manager if Steve Bruce goes, Chris? Rafa or Pochettino?
It's two completely different managers, aren't they? If you want someone that's going to build the foundations up from the club, then you look no further than Rafa. He's been here, he got it, he knew exactly what we were about as a club, as a fan base, history, and so on. So if Rafa got the job, everyone would love it. Everyone. If Poch got it, you're looking at something completely different, mate. You're looking at, you're excited, aren't you, with the prospect of Pochettino coming in. Personally, I said that I would love Poch. I really, really would like to see him as manager. But in the same breath, you can't knock Rafa for what he did here. But sometimes I think it's best ending the chapter, mate, and moving on to the next one. And if that was to be with Rafa, then it's understandable. But of course, I'd welcome Rafa back with open arms tomorrow, mate. Yeah,
I mean, it's great to have those kind of conversations. I mean, for me, look, I'm of the same opinion. I would prefer Rafa only because he's got unfinished business. I obviously had a close working relationship with him for 3 years and his team, and he's got the connection with Staveley. So, you know, all of that makes it a nice transition and should make it very easy. And I'd love the opportunity to see Rafa come to Newcastle be able to start the project that he complete the project that he started, but also to have some money to spend, because he didn't have money to spend.
I'm not sure what the last game, one of the last games, it might be Leicester. It was a televised game, and he was getting interviewed on the pitch. Was it Leicester? I can't remember. It was one of the games. It was televised, and he was getting interviewed by Jamie Carragher, and it's probably the most open I've seen Rafa, because he was quite a closed book sometimes in his interviews, and he was really open, basically saying that how far can he take the club without having money. So of course it would be great to see Rafa a bit of cash and less worry behind him. But he's a fantastic bloke as well. I've had the privilege of meeting Rafa a couple of times. We got invited to the training ground once, and I think everyone's a little bit shell-shocked with seeing Rafa. So we were out before anyone came out. We stood around the pitch of the training ground. Then Rafa comes out, standing at that side of the pitch. Then all the players come out. So Rafa comes over towards the end of the session, and he basically says, "Has anyone got any questions?" And I think everyone froze completely, just didn't know what to say to him. But I tell you what, mate, he still went on and spoke for a good 40 minutes, even though anyone didn't ask him a question. And he was so honest, mate. Like, it was ridiculous. He was saying that he gets criticised for negative football and things like that. And he said, who's got the highest win rate in the Champions League? Who was manager of the team that scored the most goals in the game in the Champions League? Every single answer was him, mate. So negativity, if he's got the money and the team behind him, it's not going to be negative football, is it? Let's be honest with you. And another thing, he said the problem with getting players to sign for Newcastle is it's not necessarily the area where we're in England. They'll come up with the likes of the wives, and the wives won't want to live in the area. Usually, but the players happy to do so. And he went, then, as a showcase, you come and show them the likes of the training ground, because that's where they're going to be spending the majority of their time whilst they're under contract at this club. So he basically said, he went, look behind you. And obviously we'll all turn around and look at the ground, mate. There's half-painted walls, half-painted doors, the crest's falling off, it's wonky. He said, what do you expect? And he hit the nail on the head, mate. If you're not proud of your training facilities, why would a player come in and do that exactly the same?
Yeah, to hear Rafa come in and he made minor adjustments and painting things at the training ground, it tells you what kind of state the club was in under Ashley. It's Pochettino, for me again would be a great acquisition as a manager if we didn't go down the Rafa route. It's a journey into the unknown, but look, he hasn't won anything, but he did very well at Tottenham, had them playing some fantastic football, and as you say, maybe he's going back to Rafa. Maybe he's, a lot of people say never go back. Maybe it is the wrong thing, but I'm sure that one of those two coming in won't be a bad thing for Newcastle. I feel sorry for Steve Bruce. I'm not sure what Steve Bruce's thought pattern is at the moment, but I would imagine he would expect that once the season's over, he'd be out of a job with his new owners. And look, I didn't want him at the club. I'll hold my hands up. He's done better than I thought he would, but I don't think it's been entertaining. I think the football that we've watched at times has been dire, and I think he's had a lot of luck. But he's got to 35 points. He's got to the quarter final of a cup. Let's see where he finishes the season.
I think the problem with Bruce and people's opinions on Bruce is that people are refusing to eat a bit of humble pie right now, mate. Because just like yourself, we were sat around the table talking about this, and we said, we're not going to win a game. Didn't expect to win a single game, mate. And it's obviously in full circle on this one. We're in a comfortable position right now, just a handful of points away from safety. So you've got to not necessarily applaud what's been done, but you've got to hold your hands up and said, right, maybe we were wrong, maybe we were too quick to criticise. But like you said, Takeover goes through. Steve Bruce isn't going to be manager for the next full season. That's not going to happen, mate. But I think Bruce could probably leave this club with his head held high. He's came out and he's conducted himself really well from day one, mate. And you've got to remember, he was getting tons of stick and abuse from everyone in football, like any fan laughing at Newcastle for appointing him as manager. So he can leave this club with his head held high, and he'll probably walk into another championship team, mate. It's a no-brainer. Going from his position and where we're most likely going to finish in the league, he'll get another job and a massive payout on the back of this. So it's a win-win situation for everyone, isn't it?
It is 100%. John Ball says, obviously Dubravka's our number one goalkeeper. What's the lads' views on other goalkeepers, Elliott, Darlow and Woodman?
I've always been a massive Elliott fan, you know. I really have. I like him as well. He's a decent bloke, Rob, but he's getting on a bit now for a goalkeeper. Of course he is. So I don't think he hasn't really played much, has he? He hasn't even been on the bench.
No.
I know Rafa's last season, before Rafa left, he wasn't even in the team. He was training the likes of the academy. So he wasn't even part of the likes of the first team's plans. Darlow's number 2 goalkeeper, but you've got to look for the future of this one, mate. We've got a decent goalkeeper in Dubravka, world class, you could even say. He's kept us in so many games.
Yeah.
So you've got to look for the future. What I'm hearing from Woodman, his days at Swansea, which he's had, he's been decent there. So I would say Woodman, you've got to give him a massive chance. So it'll be a struggle for him, mate. Obviously, going from the likes of Swansea and playing football to sitting on the bench at Newcastle. But I would love to see him back at the club and work alongside the likes of Dubravka, Elliott. Of course, one of them's going to go. I would imagine Darlow to go because he needs first team football, mate. He can't sit on the bench. He needs first team football. He's too good of a goalkeeper to sit and rot there. So yeah. I would expect Darlow to probably go to a team that may get promoted or to the likes of a championship team to get first team football.
Yeah, Lufka says, great chat again, lads. Keep it up. Eye contract signing says, I think 10 to 12 points will be picked up. That's a big shout.
It's more than enough, mate. More than enough.
Of course it is. Thomas Bell's asking if the takeover's off. No, mate, it's not. Phil Carty says, I will be happy with 2 wins out of the next 9 and we will be safe. Joe 1994 Moore says, does Bruce's record with soft tissue injuries worry you? He's had the same injury problems throughout his managerial career. It's an issue that raised its head a few times, Chris, isn't it? And I've mentioned it a couple of times to a few of the players on my podcast that, you know, with the games coming thick and fast, you know, and obviously a long break, just slightly longer than a pre-season break, probably in you know, between seasons. Soft tissue injuries might be an issue, and I think our doctor's already been on and more or less said that as well.
It's always going to be an issue, mate, especially with some of the players we've got. The pacier the player, the more struggle you're going to have with these sort of muscle injuries. We saw it with Saint. He got rushed back a little bit too quick on that one. Then he didn't last long before he was subbed off. Was that against Arsenal? Yeah. Spurs? Arsenal was one of them.
Yeah.
So he got subbed off there. But apparently that was no fault of Bruce's. Player was saying that he was fit to play. And if a player comes to you and saying that you're fit, that's what you want as a fan, never mind a manager. You want a player to say that they're ready to play. We've seen it in the past with the likes of Michael Owen for his name, saying that he had an injury, even though the doctors were saying there's nothing there. It's all in his head. So I think it's a little bit harsh to put all these injuries and the blame of them on the likes of Bruce. I think the players have got to take a lot of the stick on this one. But it's a huge concern. So the likes of Saint, the likes of Almiron, those sort of players, it does worry us because you've got to think if one or even worse, both of those pick up an injury, especially when we're playing 3 games a week, mate. Mm-hmm. If they're out for 4 or 5 games on the back of that, it's going to be a struggle for us as a team without those in it.
100%. Brian Parker says, name a Newcastle player, past or present, who you'd pay to watch every time and why?
Laurent Robert, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
Love the bloke. One of the reasons why I fell in love with the club, of course, I've been a fan since the day I was born, living by the time, me parents supporting Newcastle family and everything like that. But Robert's always that player that sticks in my mind, mate. It was just sexy football, wasn't it? It was just the fact that his left foot could send that ball to the moon, mate. It was fantastic to see, and you always had a bit of confidence when Robert was on the ball, and even better that he's a salty Frenchman, mate. It's one of those things that as Newcastle, we've always had them in with teams. So you've had the likes of Robert, Ginola. More recent years, you look at Ben Orfang, and as much as he was fantastic to watch, he was infuriating at the same time, mate. But Robert, always my answer.
Peter Beardsley for me. I mean, I saw him both times at the club. Fantastic player, top class. Definitely the player that Messi built his game on. There's no doubt about that. But just
always do the same trick as well, mate. Always the same trick, and people fell for it every single time.
Still does it in the PAV Cup. And what I like about him, every year that he plays in the PAV Cup, the first thing he'll say to whoever's managing the Newcastle Legends team on the day is, "Mind, don't take us off." He doesn't want to come off. He still at his age wants to play every single second that he can. You know what I mean? And just amazing. Sad that we're not going to have the PAV Cup this year. I think we're going to announce something in the next couple of weeks just so it can still make some money for the charities, which would be great. But he's still not be forgotten. We'll definitely be doing something. Danielle says tea party. It's something which has started to become a bit of a habit with new guests on the podcast that I do. 3 people that you would take to a tea party. They can be alive, they can be dead, they can be famous, they can be, infamous, they can be not famous, they can be footballers, it can be anybody you want. Who would you take and why?
It's a tough one, that, because there's so many people that you can't think of, especially narrowing it down to 3. Robert, he's definitely there.
I'll there.
Tell you that. Laurent's there. Who else? So I'm taking Tupac with us as well, randomly. So I've got Laurent Robert, I've got Tupac, and I'm bringing Saint with us as well.
Right.
Just because, imagine those 3. It'd be absolutely wild, mate. Absolutely wild.
Classic, mate. Absolute classic. We've had some belters, man. Keith Gillespie's was the best. He had George Best, Frank McAvenny and Gaza. What a combination. There wouldn't be any drink left, that's for sure. Ronnie Lillico says, let the haters hate. Keep doing the good work. It is appreciated. Umar Online says, spot on, Chris. You definitely need a thick skin. Social media can be a toxic place. Hutchinson Heaton says, Decker's hilarious on the drink. Great podcast from both Gallagher Shots and me. Thank you. Philip Davison saying, hashtag 9th of June, hashtag cans. This has all come from somebody making a comment innocently last week and then blaming it on Steve Howie. Saying that the Blade and Races Day was going to be the day. And of course, you know what it's like. It's just straight away. It's like whispers, isn't it? Somebody says something and everyone suddenly thinks that it's going to happen. Tom Lynch says, come back, Rafa, and finish the project. Newcastle United Times says, great to see Gallagher Shots involved. A lot of love for you, Chris, which is nice. Ian Russell says, if we win the FA Cup, do you think the new owners will keep Steve Bruce?
No. He could win everything, and he's not getting kept from the new owners. The new owners won't care about sacking Steve Bruce off. I'll tell you that. Of course, a lot of people probably will, but as new owners, you're going to have to be ruthless on this one, mate. You're going to want the best for your club, and is he the best manager that we can have on the back of a takeover? Of course not. So he can go and win the FA Cup. Great, stick a statue up with him, then go and get a new manager.
Yeah. Keithy from the Toon says, Poch would concern me that he wouldn't see us as a long-term project and he would jump ship if Real Madrid, etc. came calling. I would take Rafa every time. I know I've watched the Pochettino interviews and I've got to be honest, he's keen on going back to Tottenham as well. So the loyalty factor would concern us. And I mean, I know no manager is ever going to be loyal to his contract, but Rafa Benitez has always been loyal to his contract. But also interesting to see what happens in China because the word before COVID was that the contract that he had out there might be at an end because the sponsors had pulled out. So that might get him out of that. Never walked away from a contract issue.
I think what we'll have to remember on the back of this one, mate, we are thinking of Newcastle United as a club as it is right now. Yeah. So of course, the likes of Poch might look at this club as it is right now and thinking might be a great stepping stone. Yeah. We don't know what the future might hold for this club. We could go on in the next 4 or 5 years and constantly climb that table and get further in competitions and possibly even make Europe, even Champions League, if the takeover was to go through. So that's probably a project which would obviously be a massive, massive goal for the likes of Poch. He could make his name at this club with money behind him. So you can look at it both ways. But like I said, I think a lot of people are thinking Newcastle right now, and this club is literally going to be completely different, mate. It's going to be a clean slate for everything from top to bottom. So it's a hard one to really say Poch might not really see Newcastle as a project when we could be a really, really top force in European football.
Yeah. Tom Lynch says, I'll wish Steve Bruce all the best for the future. He hasn't gone yet, but I know where you're coming from. Tom Dixon says, Chris, what's your verdict on the fans not getting their money back from the club?
So I'm one of those fans, to be honest with you. I'm one of the fans that pay monthly direct debits. My money started getting taken out in February for next season, which we don't even know what's going to happen with that one. as a fan, I'm pretty level-headed on this one. I know why we're not getting refunds, because of the whole saga with the takeover. I understand that. It would be great if the club came out and said something, but can they physically say anything? Because let's be honest, we're still owned by Mike Ashley. He has the keys to the door to St. James's Park, to the club. So I guarantee you, the majority, if not all, of the staff associated with Newcastle United will not have a clue what's happening with this takeover. So how can you get a statement come out about possible refunds and things like that if your owner doesn't even know what's happening? So I think we just need to be patient on this one. Of course, the likes of Newcastle United Supporters Trust, they're doing everything right by contacting the club, asking for more information. But personally, I'm sitting tight on this one, mate, because I understand why it's not happening. And it will happen eventually. Of course it will. I'd be very shocked if it didn't. So we've just got to just wait it out, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Woods was asking the question about that, and did we think that the takeover was the reason? And yeah, we do, really. Jeffers says, who's your top 2 centre-backs at the club? That's a good question.
That's changed throughout the season, if I'm being honest with you, because I was never a huge fan of Lascelles. I've always been honest about that one. I don't dislike him. I think he's a decent player, but I always think that there's better centre-backs in the club and on the books to him. I've always held Lejeune very, very high, probably saying he was our best, but obviously with injuries, that's hard to really judge. But I think Fernandez deserves a lot of credit this season. He's been absolutely fantastic, and I think when Lascelles came back and went alongside him, their partnership was really blossoming. So I'll probably say those two, if I had to pick right now, those two. And I love Sher as well, absolutely fantastic. And we're in a great situation now where if and when a takeover goes through, you probably don't really massively have to look at the likes of the defence, because we've got a pretty solid back three if you're looking at the centre backs. And you always forget about Kieran Clark. He was fantastic at the start of the season.
He's my guilty pleasure. I remember when Rafa signed him as cover. Didn't sign him to play, and he's been the most. I would say probably the most pound for pound one of the best signings that Rafa's made. I mean, I know people will pick other players, out of the air, but Clark's never let us down, and he weighs in with a few goals as well.
He does, mate. He scored a couple at the start of the season. He's just been really unlucky to lose his spot in that team and have such great centre backs playing in the same team as him, because as fans, we haven't really been in this position, especially with defenders. It's a really, really good position to be in as a club, having so many good defenders on our books.
Hutchinson Heaton says, is Chris and the lads still doing the walk to the food bank this year? And can we join them? When does that usually happen?
It changes, mate, to be honest with you. We'll always pick a game. We've only done it for the last 2 years. The first one was the 125th anniversary of the club. So basically, just a summary, what we'll do is it started off with a handful of lads, majority of were from South Shields, and were basically asked for donations of food, tins, non-perishables, things like that. And we'll push trolleys from the middle of the John Reed Road in South Shields all the way to the ground. So it works out around about just under 12 mile, because you've got to remember the likes of the Great North Run, they're on the roads. We can't physically take a trolley full of food on a road, so we're up and down the laybys and going around streets and things like that. Last year we'd done it at the Man U game, so the home game, St. James's Park. Of course, it was a home game. We didn't push it to Old Trafford. So we'd done it then, and we filled 3 trolleys up that time. So it absolutely kills you, mate. I'm not going to lie. So, but the more people that want to get on board, of course. But right now, we haven't set a date on anything.
Yeah.
Like we've said, it's pretty. It's a unique situation we're in right now. So us going out with trolleys and pushing them around the streets, it just doesn't feel the right thing to do right now. But that's not stopping you going and donating physically to the food bank yourself. They do fantastic work up here, so I'd always push people in their direction.
Yeah, 100%. We had Bill on, obviously, with Michelle and...
great lad, Bill, isn't he?
He's great lad, Bill. Yeah, 100%. Love the work that they do. It's a pity they've got to do it, but fantastic work. Philip Davison says, did you hear Simon Jordan today on TalkSport? He was calling the club for not contacting the fans about their money back and about the club definitely getting sold soon. P.S. I still can't stand him. Yeah, I did hear that. I mean, bit of a strange one. I watched his interaction with our fans on Twitter afterwards as well, and a lot of people like saying, "Oh, you've changed your tune," and I've always liked your sign. A few people saying, "I always like these." Going, "No, that's because I say what you want us to say now." But yeah, I mean, just another one who plays the game, isn't he? You know, he plays the clickbait game for TalkSport.
He's normally sat firmly in the Ashley camp, to be honest with you, and saying that us as a fan base demand too much. So I always take what he says with a pinch of salt, to be honest with you. It's all for the attention, really, just basically like a full radio station. If they're saying something that they know they're going to get interaction from, they'll go down that route. So, like I said, I'll always take what he says with a pinch of salt.
Ray Smith says, will Matty Longstaff play another game for Newcastle?
I'd like to say yes. I really, really would. But once again, with the whole takeover, I feel as if I'm doing this takeover for quite a bit on this one. But who's there to give him that contract, which he probably deserves? He's in a horrible situation, Matty, in this one. He's in between on this one. I think if the takeover wasn't going through or had never even started, I think we probably would have already offered the contract that would be suitably matched for him. Mm-hmm. Takeover going on, it's given him a chance to speak to other clubs. But I honestly think it's a flip of a coin, you know. I really do. If he's been offered 30 grand, I don't believe it, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think he's been offered 30 grand over at Udinese. If we were to offer him 20, 25, it's a decent amount for a young kid. We've got to remember, he's going from 850 quid a week to mega bucks on this one. And I feel as if the club have probably not necessarily learned the lessons, but realised they've made mistakes in the past with certain players. I know, like Sammy Amiobi got a decent deal on the back of a half-decent season he had. So the club might be a bit reluctant on this one, but I honestly think if we're offering him 20, 25 grand a week, then he should probably snap the club's hand off at this point. Especially
when it's got, additional, bonuses and stuff like that. It is crazy money for somebody of his age, but you'll be listening to his agent. I'm sure he'll be listening to his dad and listening to his brother and having his head turned. And of course, the connection between Udinese and Watford hasn't gone unnoticed, I think, as well. A lot of people think that could be the potential club that he ends up at, at the start of next season on loan from Udinese. So, we'll wait and see. Jeff Azed says, thoughts on Shelvey? Personally, Jeff has rates him. I'm not a Shelvey fan. Like you've just said about, various other, various players you've mentioned. You're always honest. I'm tend to be honest. The two players that I probably wouldn't have had in the team this season were Joelinton and Shelvey. But I know a lot of people like him. I know a lot of people think he makes the team tick. If you get him in the right mindset. What's your views on him?
I'm probably very similar to what you've just gone through there, mate. He's one of those players where he could have an absolute fantastic game, mate. The best player on the pitch, hands down. Then he can look disinterested sometimes. And I don't think he is disinterested. I think it's his body language. I think his legs are quite heavy, so it takes him a little bit longer to run back and track players. But I do like him. I do. But he's not the first name on the team sheet. Not by a long shot. It's an area which I think needs a fair bit of improvement. We've struggled in that area this season. You've had the likes of Shelvey, both Longstaffs, Hayden in there. And I think we have struggled at times. Sean Longstaff hasn't really hit the heights that we were hoping for on the back of the season prior to that one. But Shelvey, he's still someone that I would probably have in the starting 11 because I do think he brings something different to what the rest of those players bring, what I've just said there. But he's frustrating, really, really frustrating player.
Yeah, it's one of them. It's one of those things, I mean, he's played some half-decent games this season. Bruce has put a lot of faith in him, gave him the captaincy when Lascelles dipped out the team. So it comes down to man management, I suppose, and Rafa didn't like him. Rafa didn't value him, didn't want him in the team. And, it's Bruce has come in and it's a different ball game. But it'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of the last few games of the season. Mubarak says, when the takeover goes through, I myself and many Saudi people will visit Newcastle and watch games. Will there be special tours for us to understand the city and the club history? Yes, there's buses that take you around the city, and I'm sure you'll find a lot of Newcastle fans We'll be happy to take you around a few of the bars, Mubarak. Got a few other questions coming in. If you are good enough, it's irrelevant who the manager is. A lot of people talking about as an ongoing debate about different players and about Rose in particular. Yeah, I mean, Rose is another one that divides opinion. Obviously, you know, he's on loan. Quite vociferous about COVID as well. You know, is that a deal you would make permanent, Rose?
Nah. I think he came in when needed. He wouldn't have been brought in if Jetro hadn't been injured. If you're comparing the two players from Willems and Danny Rose there, Willems, it was hands down better than him. Like, it's his relationship that he was building up with Saint as well down that left-hand side was fantastic. And I think Rose did struggle in the first few games at Newcastle. And he started to get a bit better before everything stopped and football stopped. But he's not someone that I'd really pay big money for, big wages for, because he's going to demand it. He's not. I think you could find better and younger, if I'm being brutally honest with you.
Yeah, I'd agree. Rope Access Management says, who's the first player you would sign after a takeover, Chris? Is there a particular player?
So if I'm being realistic on this one, Jack Grealish, all day long. I think if you go out and sign a player from a rival Premier League team for big money and someone that is getting looked at by other clubs like Man United, looking at Grealish on that one, I think that shows your intent and what you want from the future. So, of course, it's not a massive marquee signing, like absolute a superstar. But I think bringing Grealish into the club will show fans that these mean business, these owners.
Ian Woody says, what's your views on how the club would go forward if the deal doesn't go through?
We're knackered, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
If this deal doesn't go through, we are knackered, man. I think a lot of people turned their back on the club when Rafa left. And rightly so for a lot of people. And I think this will be the final straw on this one, mate, if I'm being honest with you. But we've been dragged through this takeover, highs and lows right the way through it. No word from the club whatsoever about what's happening. So I think I'll probably include myself in that bracket as well, mate. If this takeover doesn't go through, then I think that's me done for me season ticket, if I'm being honest with you.
Grealish always splits opinions. No surprise to see the comments. Halliday says Grealish would be a class act. Yeah, 100%. And then Rope Access Management says Grealish, yeah, okay, but Ori's off-field antics not a concern. Of course, he went out and had a big party during COVID, which he shouldn't have. And I know he's had a few other little scrapes. You know, I suppose it's down to the manager, really, isn't it, to try and curb that.
If you want superstars and decent players in your team, you've got to expect this sort of thing, mate. Some of the best teams in the world, like Real Madrid, Barcelona, you've got players who have quite an interesting off the field life. So I think you need to accept it. And of course, it's not like agreeing with what he's doing off the pitch, but you've got to realise a lot of these decent players, they come with a little bit of baggage.
Yeah. Northern Soul Mod says, I hope this takeover does go through because there's no way this club could survive another 5 years under the current regime. I don't think it could survive another 5 minutes, to be fair.
I think you're right. It definitely wouldn't survive another season on the back of this one. Just look at how much money the club would have lost on the back of COVID and things like that. And we're a Premier League club in a very, very good position financially. But if Ashley's not spending on a regular basis in transfer windows when that money's coming in, what's it going to be like when there's no money there at all? Exactly.
Murto12 says, Steve, I think our most important thing we do is get a really good scouting system. It's something which we've needed for years. But, I mean, the new owners are going to come in, as they say, there's lack of money because there's no crowds. And obviously there's a tax bill to pay. Then they've got to pay for, the tidying up of the ground and the training ground, improve the training facilities.
I don't think it's improving it. I think they'll literally flatten it and start again.
And then they've got to spend money on the team. So I think a lot of people who are expecting Messi and Ronaldo might be a little bit disappointed. I think it's a long-term plan, and any new owners coming in, no matter how much money they've got, will have a plan and we'll have to follow that plan, and it'll be a long-term plan, won't it? It won't just happen overnight.
Mate, I would love to go down the route of building a team. I said this a few weeks ago, when we all thought the takeover was going to go through 2 weeks, and we're all pretty positive on that one. And I think we're all agreed saying that the team itself now, you've probably got 3-4 players in there that are really good players. You could probably pick them up and put them in a top 6 team, and they'd look even better, mate. So I think we have got the foundations of the team to build around it. So with a couple of extra additions, someone like Grealish, it's only going to make those players play even better. So I don't think we're far off. I don't think we've literally got to get rid of every single player and start from scratch on that one. But I'd be quite happy to see a project rather than going and buying the likes of the leagues and things like that. And something similar to what Leicester have done, what Wolves have done, I'd welcome that with open arms.
Yeah, Ian Woolies is asking if you can do a poll on Gallagher Shots and ask how many will give up their season tickets if it all goes tits up. So that's a request on his behalf.
Do you know what it is though? When you do the likes of these polls on social media, they don't give a true reflection. They never do, because look at the likes of the boycotts. People saying who's going to boycott, and you're looking at like 80-90% of people saying they will. And then match day comes along, and it's 80-90% full. Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, like I've said for a long time, I mean, my days of protesting are long gone, but going to protests, I go back to the 80s. And of course, you know, a lot of the good work was done, you know, outside the ground. It was done going into the bars, it was going into the clubs and talking to supporters. Nowadays, it's very lazy. People think they set a Twitter account up, they get 2,000 followers, and they think suddenly they've got a revolution that they can create. And they're sadly, as you say, they're sadly let down on the day of the protest, because it just doesn't work like that, you know.
Yeah.
Last couple of points. Murto says the one player that will shine, in my opinion, is Shelvey. If we play attacking football, we will see his real ability. Norton J makes a good point. He says Mackems will vote on polls, which is correct. Tom Dixon, he says, Chris, who would you have as director of football at Newcastle? We'll give give Tom the last question.
Director. So we did a podcast with a couple of lads on this one about Kevin Keegan coming back as a director role, and I think it's split opinion. I think a lot of people would probably prefer to see Keegan as the likes of ambassador. On this one, you've got to remember, director of football, it's a lot more than showcasing the club. You've got to look at the likes of the books and things like that. Make sure the running of the club is perfect from top to bottom. Has Keegan been out of the game too long to have that sort of role? Does he know the background of the likes of the football club? Probably not to the extent that you would need to know it. Bringing someone that's previously been part of this football club, then you look no further than Ferdinand for me. Like, he's doing that role now at QPR. So God knows. To be honest with you, it might be a case where someone gets brought in that's got nothing to do with being a previous player and things like that, or any links to the club. The Saudis might already have someone in line that they expect to do this.
My money's on Owen Brown. The Independent covered it, and Frank McParland. They were involved with Rafa, and they obviously
got links with Rafa, hasn't he? Yeah,
and they obviously good friends with Stabley. So I would say that the Independent is the closest yet, to guessing who that's going to be. Right, we've got a minute and a half left, mate. Last chance to plug Gallagher Shots. Where can people find you?
So once again, Gallagher Shots. It's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Same on YouTube. Go on YouTube, search for Gallagher Shots. One thing I do want to plug quickly on this one, Steve, rather than Gallagher Shots, is myself and a handful of people. We are doing a fundraiser this month, the month of June, where we are each running 50 miles, walking 100 miles, or cycling 200 miles. It's called a 50 miles for tiny lives. Search for it on Facebook, Instagram. Can sign up, be a part of it. The aim to start with me was to raise 500 quid for Tiny Lives, which is based in the RVI for likes of health for families of premature babies and things like that. But we've now hit over $7,000, I believe. So there's hundreds of people involved now. Like I said, it started off with 4 people. I wasn't one of those 4 people. I've joined along the way. But there's over 100 people now doing it. So like I said, if you search for 50 miles for Tiny Lives on Facebook, Instagram, give one of a message and jump on board and help out.
I'll find the link, and when I stick this on YouTube tomorrow, because I'm sticking Steve Howie up tonight, I'll stick this on tomorrow. I'll stick all your links in there. I'll find that, and I'll stick that in there for you as well. But
perfect, mate.
20 seconds left, mate. I'll keep following you, keep sharing your stuff, and everybody get on to Gallowgate Shots onto Instagram tonight as well. Give them a follow. The lads do some great stuff. Take care, mate. Stay safe.
Thank you, mate.
See you on
Appreciate
the
it.
other side. Bye, mate.
Ta-da.